everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Beautiful day here in Trinidad and Tobago. But right here at the top, I welcome two gentlemen who are going to firstly put me in the mood to talk, and they're going to play some music. So we welcome Tony Huaza. Tony is a musician, and today he comes helping his friend Professor Stanley Ruiz, who is a guitarist and also a jazz educator at the Sam Symphony School of Music. So gentlemen, good day. And before we talk, let's have a little jazz. Okay, and you know what is always for me, what I like to look at when people play jazz and they say it's jazz improvisation, I love to look at their faces. They look so happy. Tony, you got as close to heaven as you, I don't want to say as you're ever going to get. But you look very close to heaven there.
Well, yeah.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
Music thing always makes
I
me
know
happy.
you love your music.
Yeah.
But it is, I think with the improvisation, it is all about expressing yourself. And this is what brings about this mood of joy, particularly if it's a happy piece. I know sometimes in jazz, you do melancholy moments as well.
That's
right?
Yes.
All right. I know Tony is here just to help you today with the
Well,
improvisation.
he's more help to me. He's a mentor.
A mentor.
Yes.
He's my mentor. I learned a lot of stuff from Stanley, man.
Yes.
He cleared up a lot of stuff in my head all the time. Calls me on the phone all the time. Hey, Tony, check this out. I keep asking, what's this? What's that? What are you doing? Always taking notes. Stanley's cleared up a lot of the jazz stuff in my head. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
All the time.
Oh. And this is something that is special to certain people, to certain musicians. It's not every single musician that can do that.
No, well, he has a way of explaining things and transferring things into my head. And he has a phenomenal way of doing that. To me, I learned so much from him. You know, the picture is getting a lot less hazy for me now.
Oh, wow. Well, and you know, we're here, and it's all courtesy Sam Symphony School of Music, and listening to what Tony says, because Tony is one of the most respected musicians here in Trinidad and Tobago as far as guitars are concerned and playing the guitar. So that coming from him just gives credibility now to what you're doing at the school.
Well, I feel very humbled. I'm more or less a backroom player, so I'm not outside there. You see, I used to be at one time, but I realized that to become virtuoso level in musician, you need to do a lot of wood shedding, as we call it. You have to get behind the closet and sit down and practice, read and study. And this, I suppose, this is one of the shortcomings of many musicians in Trinidad, particularly in the pan fraternity, where people play strictly by rote, and they don't necessarily know what they're doing musically. So what we attempt at SAMS is to try to teach them the hows in music. Okay. And, but with guitar in particular, it's an upward climb because the guitar is a very difficult instrument. It is not as visual as a piano, so that you need to put in more. Right now, of course, if you're playing classical music as opposed to jazz, classical music you play what you see, and there's no deviation. Right? Some people tend to think that it lacks creativity in the sense that it doesn't give the artist a chance to do something different. So every time you play that piece, it's the same thing. Whereas with jazz improvisation, it's an intellectual type of thing, if you wish to call it that, because you have to internalize a lot of concepts and structures and which you ordinarily would not do in classical music.
Yeah. So there's order in the madness.
It is order in the madness.
No, seriously, in other words, you're telling somebody, listen, you can do what you want to do, but there's certain rules, really, that you do have to follow.
Yes.
You can't just do
anything
that comes to your mind.
Right. But again, with a jazz musician, we don't like to use the word rules. We use it as guidelines. Because if you say you're breaking the rules, it doesn't sound so good. All in fact, sometimes you do. Right? Because sometimes you play something, a lot of people say that they spontaneously create something on the spot. But I don't believe so. I believe what you do is you make choices of what you have already internalized several years ago. And I always, when Tony and I are having discussions, I say, listen, learn it and forget it. Learn it now, forget it. And it sort of stays in your subconscious mind. And when we teach jazz improvisation, we split the brain into left brain, right brain. Left brain is all the symbols and the theory and what works with what. Whereas the right brain now is the creative mind, where you draw upon the left brain. So sometimes you are playing on a concert and you have 10 minutes to do something. You don't have time to study, well, what you're going to do now. You just let it happen. So it's really mind, and momentum.
And mind and momentum.
Yes.
And the momentum of what's happening around you at the time and how the audience are reacting to different moods.
Yes.
Yes, Tony? Do you like that? I mean, you play in a band where you have to be structured because you're backing up singers.
Yes.
So which do you prefer when and you have to really...
I don't mind backing up a singer, because I've done that for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But the freedom of being able to play what you feel inside,
yes.
that's the ultimate for me. I've been working on that for quite a few years now. Yeah.
And the thing is that years when you stop backing up, you'll always have this side of it.
Well, yeah, it's something to look forward to try to achieve, to try to grow. You never stop learning as far as music is concerned. Yeah, no.
All musicians, all true musicians say that. Let's talk a little bit about what you teach at the school, Stanley. The students who come to you, I would imagine if you're doing jazz education, that they would have to already know how to play their instruments.
Yes. No, we have different instruments in the course. So we don't say only guitar. It just happens that I say to them that your instrument is a means to an end, and that end is to express yourself. So you learn the theory, and you have to go now and learn how to navigate on your instrument and take what's in your mind and put it there. So in other words, the idea is to be a musician first, then a guitarist. A musician first, then a pianist, right? And that is how we approach it. Because too often, especially with guitar players, they get locked into diagrams and boxes and shapes and so on. So you don't develop that sense of neutrality that you need on the fretboard. In other words, you have to say, for example, well, I'm in 3rd position or I'm in 8th position, and you learn your things there. But it's better to learn just to hear notes and play. But of course, to do that, you have to do tremendous amount of hours of practice. So we teach, now there's a basic prerequisite. Obviously, if somebody's coming into jazz improvisation, they should know some basic things like major scales, minor scales, and so on, and how to play a couple basic chord progressions. In a case,
Could you demonstrate that for me?
All right.
What's a play a major scale?
A major scale, play a C major for me. So when somebody's holding down a chord, I will play this. Up an octave. Now, when you play music, you don't play scales.
Yeah.
You have to manipulate that scale using the notes so that it sounds more musical and more melodic. So,
Sorry, I just want to tell them they're on the wrong guitar. It's this guitar we want to demonstrate the scales. The professor's guitar. Thank you.
Yeah.
that's the scale. Then you have you can manipulate. Now I use some notes that are outside the scale with what you call chromaticism or passing tones to give it color. So if I'm playing C scale, I may start it like this. And phrase is very important because the most basic or simple phrase will sound tremendous if you have proper use of time and space. So beep, beep, ba-do, ba-do, beep, ba-do, ba-do, beep, ba-do, beep, ba-do, right? Then you have to learn connectivity too, because you have to learn chord progressions. And let's say in a key of C major, you have the 7 chords, and you have chords that you could put in there. So let's say we play the scale in chords, which will be C major, D minor, you see musical, F, G7, A minor, B minor 7 with a flat 5, back to C. What you hear this note? That's a color note. In other words, the second degree of the C scale, I put it in the C chord, so you get a C, what they call a C ninth. So you get a jazzy feel. Jazz players don't play these chords. I mean, if
It's too ordinary for them.
Well, it's not. I wouldn't say that.
Come on, it's too ordinary for you.
No, no.
It lacks color.
It lacks. Well, it lacks
yes.
the color for the idiom. But sometimes, if you're backing up a singer and you play, for example, a C major 7 with a flat 5, here it is. That note might give a little problem. So usually when you end the song, you play ba, ba, by itself.
Yeah.
Once I did that chord in church for a song, and the priest looked at me with such venom. And he called me after as mass and said, "What chord did you play in that sacrosanct song there?"
You put the priest off his sermon.
But the best thing about it is I played the chord after he had finished singing, because he was on the pulpit. So when he said, "Amen," I sort of gave him "man." But as a cool off, I did that. Because you get bored quickly, yeah, with but Tony has inspired me in a way where we mentioned simplicity. He has always been a simple player, but it's complexity within simplicity. In other words,
Let him
explain
demonstrate.
that.
What is it? His simplicity. What is it? He said complexity.
Within the simplicity. Yeah.
Yes.
He says that
Yes.
stuff like that all the time.
That is to challenge
He
you.
says stuff that to me like
Okay.
that all the time. Go ahead and explain it, Stanley.
Well, for example, a 3-note chord, which is a triad, is normally the basic chord that you learn. So people say, well, why are you playing a triad? That's nothing. But a properly voiced 3-note chord may sound better than a grand bar. For example, this is a grand bar chord. It's nice by itself, but when you're in an ensemble situation where you have piano, bass, and drums, the bass man is playing this note, you have this duplicated, and so the song gets very muddy. So what generally happens is that before you practice your repertoire, you'll spend a day or 2-3 days with the band, and you'll agree on voicings, right? So you'll say, listen, you don't play this G. So for example, play A major 7 for me.
All right, we have to pick up Tony playing an A major 7 here.
It's full. So if he's backing up a singer, great. That's what they need. And there's no bass, there's no drums. You can play all the full chords because you need a full music. But I will play, if he's playing that chord, I will play this chord. The inner voices. So let's do a 2-5 like on the A.
Good.
I'll play. even. Go to the 1. You see, that is simplicity and complexity. Right? Yeah. You weren't expecting that there. Yeah. You see, and it's a simple interval. You hear that in country and western doing it. Yeah. He's great at that. And even when the soca, when he's playing the band, you hear these little, I call them chinky chords. I used to laugh at him years ago. I said, why that just chinky small?
What they call it, teeth in a chord.
Teeth in a chord.
Teeth in a chord. So that it's something different to what the others are doing. Putting it into the music.
He can give you a demonstration of some chinky chords in a chord. Just a little rhythm.
Well, I've been putting things together. Like, you would have heard in like calypso music, you would hear me play something like, it's really a dyad, 2 notes, but you get the melody within the chord. So I do that all the time. If I have to play on this, I'll go.
Nice. Nice blues.
I would do those things because it keeps it simple. It's not complex. The harmony is not complex, and you get a lot of music happening within the framework of the simple chord.
Yeah. You know, I think that when you get close to musicians, sometimes if you're just standing near the audience and you're listening to the band, you don't pick up these things. Very recently, I had the pleasure of standing on stage. 2 bands performed. It was it's Blue Ventures, played firstly, and then Image and Company. Because I was on stage, I was able to look at the musicians. And what I noticed is exactly what you're talking about. Anytime one of the guitarists or any of the players did something with a little bit of extra flair or style, you'd see the other guys just look at him and give him the nod, you know. Yes. So it is like an admission, yes, thank you, sir.
Yes.
You've just brought something to the plate.
And then they inspire each other too.
Yes.
You know.
And I know that quite often when he does that on stage, no doubt, the singer will turn and up, you know, like,
Yeah, but even among the musicians, Pelham inspired me a lot of times when he plays stuff, you know.
Yes.
Bass player, Albert Bush, great player. He inspires me all the time, you know. So I'm a group player. I don't really like to play by myself. Or, you know, I like to play with other musicians. And so they inspire you, you know. They make you play things that you wouldn't normally play.
And I suppose you have to have the courage too, because you don't want them to feel that you're stealing the limelight away from the rest of the band.
That's right.
So you have to know how far to go in certain performances.
Correct. Yes,
yeah?
I would agree with that.
But you see, not only that too, I find that when a musician, like for example Tony, plays the way he is, he leaves enough space for a soloist. In other words, he doesn't crowd you. For example, if you go into some choirs, you find about 10 guitars playing, and everybody is just banging a chord. You know, they're going, right? It's too muddy. But if you play, you know, you leave the soloist a lot of things. So that I will take chances. Now, this is another thing too in jazz improvisation. A lot of aspiring jazz, they get stage fright, if you would. They want to be safe players. They don't want to take chances. They want to play the correct scale for the correct chord. That's all right. We've gone through that. But sometimes I deliberately go in the Bermuda Triangle and play a wrong note, right? But you can make a wrong note right.
Making an excuse for when we hear him play around. I was just going into the Bermuda Triangle. Okay.
You know, so play, for example, this chord. Now, a proper note for that will be this. That is good. This good?
Yes.
This is all right?
All those notes are good.
I'll play a wrong note at all. You see, that is off. But I'll do, use it as a passing to you. Right?
See what I mean?
Triangle.
Triangle.
That's going to the Bermuda Square.
Yes. And you get challenges because even triadic playing, for example, let's play a D minor 7 chord. Think simple. I don't have to think a scale. I will take a F triad. So give me a little strum on that. Give me a little.
Okay. There it goes again.
He did it again.
Yeah. Does it all the time.
Oh my goodness.
It's the element of surprise.
Yeah. How important is it, do you think? Because there's many people who go and study music, and I think you alluded to it a little while ago, where you have a choir, for example, and a whole group of guitarists, and they're just strumming away there. And as you say, after a while, the music just sounds very boring in the background. So therefore, how important is it for people who, really want to get into music professionally to do things like these jazz improvisation classes?
One of the things too is your emotions too. And if you are a person who has a vexed spirit, generally, you can't perform because you come out playing vexed on the stage. And I've seen a lot of musicians that they're very good, they have good technique, but when they're playing, you can see that their anger coming out on the instrument.
Yeah.
Like he had a call with his wife or something, it's going like that.
The wife becomes the guitar.
The wife is the guitar.
So that's the first thing. I mean, everybody has his or her mood, right? And you're not always in a nice mood and so on. So what you do a little warm-up exercise. But the important thing is creativity, where I learned a long time is what you leave out is what makes you sound good. It's not what you put in, right? As we saw we play a big chord, but if I play this, it's with little open strings, it has a nice thing. See? Right? Yeah. So that you sometimes I play with a choir, a lot of singers, frontline and so on, and one guitar, and people come after me and ask me, hey, how many guitars are playing in the back there? I said, me. Yeah. But what I do is I cheat, if you want to call it that. I will play a chord, and I will have silence, and let the rest of the voice sing. So with my chord and their voice, it creates a nice, beautiful orchestration, right? So I just stick the chords inside. If you're playing a little fingerstyle, like silence. See? So you have the time and space. So nobody really can teach you creativity. You have to have a certain amount of natural ability. Of course, anybody can learn anything, really, if you put your mind to it, but you need a certain amount of natural ability. And, let me just switch.
And practice.
Yes, practice.
Yes.
Practice is the thing.
You still practice a lot?
Every day I try. Every day I try.
How many years have you been playing?
The guitar?
Yeah, since you were...
Oh, man. I learned to play guitar in secondary school.
Okay, so since you were this high.
Yeah.
And you have just been playing, and you still practice?
Yeah, because, again...
And I'm not, sorry, I'm not talking about practice with the band. I'm talking about at home.
See, that's another misinterpretation of things. Everyone says they're going to practice, meaning that they're going to practice with the band. But when you're going to practice with the band, you're going to rehearse. That has nothing to do with your personal practice. Most of your practice time is spent alone, working maybe with a metronome. Well, these days they have the computer, so I get the computer to play the chords in the background while I'm practicing to play scales, learning to be more fluent, learning to play the things you hear in your head, trying to develop spontaneity. So most of your practice is done alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a question I ask of all professional musicians, singers, and all the successful ones have exactly the answer that you just gave me, that you have to practice.
Yes.
You can't just say, I've reached the top of my game now and I don't need to do that anymore.
There's something else. People who you see play effortlessly. You see how Stanley would go and do these things. It looks almost like second nature. That's because of the amount of hours that he has put in. And he's been practicing for years.
Yes.
So the ones who make it seem as if it's nothing, it's effortless, call it effortless mastery.
Yes.
Those are the ones that put in the practice all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need to let your students know that as well, that if they're coming to do this, they have to seriously have time and want to put in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
that's very
Of course,
important.
you get those who just want to learn some basics
Yeah.
and so on. But what we do in a case where there are those who don't have the prerequisites, we put them into a preparatory class to get them up to scratch, and then they move into the heavier stuff, because it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of work. It's in some cases mathematics, because when you're talking about intervals, that's maths,
Yes.
and chords are built in intervals, and there's a thing called intervallic playing. Instead of you go. Do something. Right.
Oh my goodness.
See
Oh,
how see what he does to me?
Absolutely.
He does that all the time. He
should
does
have-
that to me all the time.
Yeah, and when do people in Trinidad get the opportunity to hear you play? I mean, okay, you said in church, so we can all come to church.
I'm trying to talk him
when-
into doing stuff with
Yes.
me. I'm trying to talk him into coming out and doing stuff.
I
you know?
think so. I think we deserve, we're such lovely people. We deserve to have you have a concert or something.
I used to do little concerts and little things, but I find that if I have to quarrel, I quarrel with myself. You go to band practice, you have the guys coming late, and I find that there needs to be a little more discipline in our country in terms of musicians, because musicians come, if band practice is 4 o'clock, let's go. And if you get material to go home, go and practice it. So you find that those who are struggling are the ones who are doing the least amount of homework, right? I mean, the boring thing is what I do as a guitarist, I do it while I'm watching TV. You sit down and just, and you do all the boring stuff, the navigation. And a musician told me years ago that any musician's life is a continuum of instrument, music stand, right, and your pencil and paper.
Okay, tell me about it. If you're married to a musician, you have to learn how to look at television with a guitar playing. Tell me about it. All right? You have to learn how to eat at dinner table with somebody playing a guitar as they're eating.
Yes.
Okay, I know. Time, unfortunately, has run out. But I think you have given us, both of you, a clear insight into what jazz improvisation is all about. I know that there are many, many people out there who would really want to come and take the course. Sam Symphony School of Music, your professor, Stanley Ruiz, is the gentleman who handles the guitar and jazz education classes. And I'm sure after hearing him today that many of you are going to realize that you have a maestro to deal with if you go to study under him. So thank you very, very much. Tony, you keep up all the good work of the music.
Keep on practicing.
Love, you've been practicing and it's working. He's been practicing, so when he goes to rehearsal, he's not going to be one of them causing stress. 663-6222. 663-6222. That's the number you can call. Speak to anybody who answers the phone. Tell them the courses you're interested in, and they'll tell you more about it, okay? Thanks again. We're going to now have some music where once again we can hear what I call, the use of instruments. You're going to play a little bit more for me again? Yes, please. And he did it again. He did it again. He went up there in the Bermuda Triangle. All right, thanks, guys. And I just wish, whilst you were playing there, that I could sing, because I just saw myself there as a jazz singer. But I'll have to come to do a lot of practice.